this video I will show you all the pieces of my 1730s suit. The first layer is a white linen shirt, which fastens at the collar with 2 thread-covered buttons. These shirts are constructed entirely of rectangles and squares. I made this one a bit too short, it should be closer to knee length. The cuffs have a buttonhole on each side, and fastened with these things called sleeve links or sleeve buttons, the ancestor of cufflinks, and the standard way of fastening men's shirt cuffs for pretty much the entire 18th century. Next, I'm putting on a pair of wool stockings. These are the O Woolies from Sock Dreams, and they're very warm and comfortable. My breeches are a dark green wool to match my coat. They fasten in front with a very simple button fly. This would later be replaced by a fall front around the middle of the century, as waistcoats got shorter. The waistband is made in 2 separate halves, with eyelet holes and a bit of lacing at the back to make it adjustable. This is very useful if you're a human with a body, and I think it's a crime that it's not a standard feature on modern trousers. The openings at the knee fasten with 5 cloth-covered buttons, and then the knee band is secured with a buckle. Breeches buckles aren't permanently attached, so you can wear one pair on all your breeches. They have this little bar that goes through a buttonhole on one end of the knee band, and 2 sharp stabby prongs that you poke through the fabric on the other end of the knee band. Being able to stab the prongs anywhere on the knee band makes it very precisely adjustable, so you can make it just tight enough to hold up your stockings securely, but not so tight as to cut off your circulation. The slightly different colored bits you see on the back are because I didn't have enough of my coat wool left to make breeches, and had to use a different green wool and do some piecing, but that's okay. Piecing is period. I don't know why early 18th century breeches have decorative little pocket flaps on the front when nobody will ever see them under the waistcoat, but here they are. These also have a pocket in the right side seam. Before I move on, I just want to mention rolled stockings. Wearing your stockings rolled over the bottom of your breeches was pretty fashionable for a few decades. I won't wear them rolled here because it was falling out of fashion by the 1730s, and it's not a look I particularly like anyways. I'm not sure if I'm doing it right here. They look bulkier in a lot of the portraits, but there appear to be a few different variations. I'll experiment further when I eventually make a 1720 suit. Next, I'm putting on my stock. This is a rectangle of fine linen gathered into 2 tabs. Mine's actually cotton because I didn't have any linen fine enough. It fastens at the back of the neck with a buckle. This buckle has 3 little bumps on it that go through these 3 buttonholes on the stock, and the prongs stab through the other tab, just like on the breeches buckles. Previously, the fashion had been for long hanging neckcloths, but stocks started appearing around the 1720s and would remain the most formal neckwear for the rest of the century. This is also where you start seeing ruffles down the front of shirts instead of just on the cuffs. These shoes are a thrift store pair that I altered slightly and covered with leather scraps, so they're not perfect, but they look pretty decent from a distance. Early 18th century men's shoes usually had small buckles and fairly chunky square toes. These early waistcoats were very long. I made this one out of a piece of obi brocade, which I thought was silk at first, but it turns out it's actually rayon. It's lovely just the same. A lot of early 18th century brocades have very large-scale asymmetrical designs, and it's hard to find modern fabric with similar ones. The fashionable silhouette for this time had you wear your waistcoat mostly open, with just a few buttons done up at about the level of the pocket flap. With so many buttons, it's easy to accidentally do them slightly askew, so I'd recommend doing this in front of a mirror to make sure they're level. I made this waistcoat without sleeves, but it could just as easily have 3/4 length sleeves. I also made the pocket flaps button closed on the corners, based on a few extant examples. Now I'm putting the back portion of my hair into a cue bag, a little black silk bag decorated with a pretty bow. These were also fairly new at this point, the long curly full-bottomed wig styles having only recently fallen out of fashion. The early 18th century was a bit of a transitional period for men's fashion. And now the coat. This one's a dark green wool to match the breeches. It's lined in a silk cotton blend, but you can pretend it's silk satin if you want. The upper back is lined in brown linen, a very common historical method of saving on expensive material. Same as with the waistcoat, it was fashionable to fasten only a few buttons on the front of the coat. In fact, following some extant examples, I only did 6 functional buttonholes on this coat, 5 at around the hip level and 1 at the top. I can confirm that this one button at the top makes a big difference if it's cold and windy out. It's got very big pockets. Everybody had nice big pockets in this era. Remember when I said it was easy to do up the buttons wrong? Here's a shot of me doing just that. This coat has 79 buttonholes and 47 buttons, most of which are purely decorative. The waistcoat has 25 buttons and buttonholes, and the top 12 are functional, along with the 4 on the corners of the pocket flaps. If you're interested in reading about the construction details, I've got blog posts on most of the garments here, which I will link to in the description. This is my first early 18th century suit, and I learned a lot from making it. Before that, I'd only done late 18th century, which is more popular and easier to find information on, and it was so fascinating seeing all the differences in cut that 50 or 60 years makes. There's the obvious stuff like the fuller coat skirts, bigger cuffs, and longer waistcoats, but so many other little things too, like the breeches being lower cut with a narrower waistband, and the center back coat vent meeting edge to edge instead of overlapping. Look at them next to my circa 1790 coat and waistcoat. It's so cool how different they are. Anyways, sorry for the lack of full-length shots. I moved some furniture, but my room is still too small to get the camera far enough away. Okay, thank you for watching. Bye.